On Friday night, as Hurricane Harvey was bearing down on the Texas coast, President Trump pardoned Joe Arpaio. The former Arizona sheriff had been convicted of criminal contempt for ignoring a judge's orders to stop detaining people simply because he suspected them of being undocumented immigrants. Over his decade-long career, his Maricopa County department was also accused of abusing prisoners, subjecting inmates to inhumane punishment, and of ignoring other important crimes to track and expel immigrants. It's a controversial decision, one that Trump critics labeled as an example of the president's illiberal, rule of law violating, authoritarian impulses. New York Magazine called it Donald Trump's gravest abuse of power yet. An op-ed contributor for the New York Times said that Trump's decision put him in uncharted waters, writing, "If the president can employ the pardon power to circumvent constitutional protections of liberty, there is very little left of the constitutional checks on presidential power." Bob Bauer, a former White House counsel in the Obama administration, suggested on Lawfare that the decision showed a clear disregard for the rule of law. Even before Trump granted the pardon, Noah Feldman, a law professor at Harvard, argued that such a move would express presidential contempt for the Constitution. How valid are these concerns? We surveyed a handful of professors who study authoritarianism in other countries on what they see in Trump's decision, and whether it makes them nervous. Ruth Ben Ghiat, a New York University professor who studies authoritarian rulers, propaganda and fascism and its memory, in situations where democracies become right-wing regimes, the leader usually relies on paramilitary or other extremist forces to get into office or consolidate power once he's there. He has to dance the line between expelling them and using them. Trump's expulsion of Stephen Bannon and Seb Gorka, coming together with his open support of white nationalism and now his pardon of Joe Arpaio, shows this dynamic well. If the leader does not explicitly renounce the violent rhetoric and actions of extremists, they will have done their damage even if he later purges them. The result is a new culture of violence in the country, which the other armed and security forces of society must adapt to. Tom Pepinski, who studies interaction of political and economic systems in emerging market economies at Cornell University, authoritarians generally don't allow their officials to be convicted of anything in the first place. So it's a sign of how much the president is working against the system that produces outcomes that he doesn't like one bit.